your early DJ career and how you got started, like after high school.
Man, I fell in love with DJing when I was like 14 years old. I'd go to the local dances all the time, and all the DJs were from radio stations. And by the time I got to high school, still was no DJs other than from radio stations. So when I got into high school, they passed around this little pamphlet that asked, what you want to do when you got out of high school. And they had some radio DJ. So I checked it off. And I got a damn scholarship to go to broadcast school.
Oh.
And it was a mid-70s, 75 when I got out of high school. And it was a 6-month course. And it was right in the middle of disco. And
it's a broadcasting school?
The broadcast school I went to broadcast school and graduated right in the middle of the disco music era. Everybody was Saturday Night Fever. It was hyped up. So I took the name Disco Alonzo, started doing parties. And it started off slow for a minute. And then I got popular, man.
So it was mainly for fun.
It was just for fun, man. I had a skill. I learned this little thing, and people started paying me. People would give me $50, $75. Okay, and I would rent equipment.
So Disco Construction. That was your crew.
Disco Construction was my company, my first company.
And Eve After Dark, that came after because you opened at a young age.
I was 22 and I opened Eve. I was 22. I just turned 22 a week before.
Is that why you didn't want to do probably lessen your workload as a mobile DJ? You just wanted
See, one thing about mobile DJs back in the day, doing a party was like moving a 1-bedroom apartment 4 times in one night. That shit was heavy, man. You got 10, 12 crates of records. You got BGW amps. They weigh like 50, 60 pounds a piece. You got 2 turntables. You got these Silver Vega speakers. They not no joke. So I had to have a crew all the time. And you can't leave your equipment in the truck.
Oh, yeah.
So you gotta take it out the house. I kept mine in the house. Put it in the truck. Get to the gig. Set it up.
Okay. Have someone watch your truck while you're
yeah. Oh, yeah. I had 2 guys with me. Once you set up your gig, you got to do your gig, tear it down, put it back in the truck, and then when you get home, put it back in the house. So you done moved this shit like 4 times in one night. It must
be tiring, especially if you do a Friday, Saturday.
Yes.
And you can do multiple shows in one night, right?
I've done double shows in one night. Do a fashion show in the morning, afternoon, go home, take a quick nap, and go do a party at 9 o'clock.
You probably have 2 hours of sleep.
But I was in my 20s. You don't need sleep in the 20s. You don't need sleep until you get old. So
who gave you the idea of Eve After Dark or opening up your own?
That was a fluke. That was not planned. I was doing Alpine Village with my partner, and he and I fell out. And then my dad knew the guy that owned Eve After Dark. Eve After Dark was a banquet hall above a nightclub. And it wasn't doing anything.
It wasn't called Eve After Dark. It was just
it was called Eve After Dark. And the guy had it, and it wasn't booked that much, And my old man saw me doing something over at Alpine Village. He introduced us, and the guy says, "Hey, man, if you want it, you got to take it every week." I'm like, "What? Every week?"
So they want you to rent the hall every week?
Every week. So that's your Friday and Saturday. Right. And I'm like, $2,400. It was $300 a night. Times 4. It was 5 weeks in the month. It was times 5. So I'm paying between $2,400 and $3,000 a month for rent at 22 years old. But I'm paying it weekly.
Okay.
And because the dance business was so successful, even when I lost money on one night, I would make enough to do it. I would not make enough to pay the rent. I only needed $600. Yeah. So if anybody showed up on Friday, if I felt a little short on Friday, I can make it up on Saturday. And that was the beauty of Eve After Dark versus Alpine Village. If you don't get your money in the first 5 hours between 9 and 2, you don't make your money. What Eve After Dark, I can make a little bit of money on Friday and try it again on Saturday.
If they want to come back. So it's like the return customers, usually return customers the next night.
So it just made for a whole different situation. And he gave me a break. Hey, I'm going to do it every week. He paid me every week. After pay me on Monday. That way, if you ain't going to worry about falling behind. And it worked out for us, man. It started off slow, and then we hit a good streak, man. There was no looking back for a long time.
And is that when? How did it fall into your lap about taking over Eve After Dark?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, that was pretty much it. But it was a banquet hall. It was empty. I brought my speakers up there, my DJ speakers. I was able to take my stuff out of my living room, out of my bedroom, put it in the club. I didn't have to haul it no more. That was a beautiful thing right there. All we got to do now is promote.
So, with the owner of the hall, he let you go ahead, self-promote the name Eve After Dark.
Yeah.
Now, your partner, you had a falling out. Was that Roger Clayton?
That was Roger Clayton.
So that's the next thing I want to say. Your relationship and rivalry with him and his Jam's Army.
The Jam's Army. Me and Roger started off working at a company called Record Shack together. Mm-hmm. He worked in the sales room. I worked in the warehouse. And then I got promoted to the warehouse. I mean, I got promoted to the sales room. But when I got promoted to the sales room, I was actually about to quit Record Shack and go work for Caltrans on the freeway. And I didn't want to work for Caltrans. So I eventually told him I didn't want to work there. I went back to Record Shack thinking I'm working with Roger. And Roger got fired. Then I came back that Friday. He got fired that Friday. I didn't know he got fired till Monday. Monday morning, I go back to the office. Roger, he's not there. He calls me up. He's mad. He thinking I set him up. I didn't set him up, dude. It just happened. What do you want me to do? I thought you was coming to work with me. Anyway, he was mad at me behind that. He thought I did something to take his job. And the people who I worked with at Record Shack gave me his desk, gave me his clients. I'm like, dude, I'm not a part of this. I don't,
You had nothing to do with it.
Had nothing to do with this.
But you were DJing together.
I always had a system. Roger never had a system.
Oh, all right.
He had records. He had records. So he never had a sound system. So anytime he did something, he had to call me. And that's how I got tied into Alpine Village. Then his partner turned me on. One of his partners turned me on to a lady who wanted to do a dance at Alpine Village. She hired me. So when she hired me, I started doing it. I started working with her. Then I got a chance to do Eve After Dark. I asked Roger. He turned me down. I went back to her. She said, "Yeah, I help you," and she did. And we blew up. Then Roger, once it became successful, Roger got mad. So it's been a mess forever, man. And he vowed to be the biggest promoter. He was the biggest promoter, but I'm the most consistent promoter.
Because you were sharing acts, like events you're promoting and events he's promoting. The acts were like,
you know what? We tried that. We would go. He would come to our club because we didn't care. Because no matter what you did, the Eve had the after party. We didn't close sometimes. We didn't close till 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 6 in the morning. We have opened it. We have been at the Eve After Dark as late as 6 o'clock in the morning, man.
So even if they have something going on same night,
we didn't care. It all come back to me.
Come on over.
Go ahead, have some fun, but you come on back to me. And that was the beauty of being where we were, because we didn't have to comply with LA City rules. We complied with the rules of LA County. They didn't have any after hours issues. So
yeah, because you're running an actual permanent location.
No alcohol. We didn't have any alcohol, so it was no problem. Mm-hmm. And it worked out for us. He hated it. He
treated it as, just like I said, complete competition. And
yeah, he was very competitive. I can be competitive, but I'm not as competitive as him.
There's nothing wrong with more than one promoter,
When you Roger Clayton, it is. When you Roger Clayton, so everybody's competition.
So about the same time, you were still. Tell me about World Class Wrecking Crew, or the Wrecking Crew. How did that?
We started my Disco Construction is where the Wrecking Crew came from. The Wrecking Crew was my guys that tore out my equipment, carried my equipment. It was Disco Construction and the Wrecking Crew. The Wrecking Crew.
That was the full name.
that was the full name. Disco Construction and the Wrecking Crew. I guess I'm Disco Construction, and they was the one that hauled my records and my speakers and stuff. And a buddy of mine named him the Wrecking Crew. And when I got to Eve After Dark, the Eve was still under Disco Construction, but the Wrecking Crew became more popular than Disco Construction.
You didn't know that
so we just dropped it. We dropped Disco Construction and just became the Wrecking Crew. Mm-hmm. And we started making records. There's another group called Wrecking Crew out of Chicago. So we had to drop we had to stop using Wreckin Crew, and we had to add World Class in '84. That's how you got World Class Wreckin Crew.
Okay. I thought for some reason I was online. They said it was mainly because you're already a recording act, so that wasn't the reason. Because it was like someone had the name before. That's why you added.
Well, it's basically somebody did. Somebody had the name Wreckin Crew, but it was a house band for a record company out of Chicago. And we got a cease and desist letter, you know, because we both in the music industry. It was kind of confusing. And they was doing the '84 Olympics. And I kept hearing this term, world-class runner, world-class swimmer. And I'm like, let me try this. And I called my lawyer, and he says, hey, man, just, you know, add world-class, drop the G on Wreckin and misspell crew, C-R-U, and you're good. That's what we did.
So that leads to my next question: the early stages of NWA, because I know on the Wreckin Crew, Yella and Dre, and who else was?
That's it.
They were the main.
They were the main ones that left Wreckin Crew and became NWA. So
now how did that come about?
Wreckin Crew, we had got a major record deal, and with Sony, and everything was kind of slowed down. We was independent up until then, and by being independent, we could drop records when we wanted to. If one of my records slowed down, I could just drop another one. And we got to Sony. They tied us up. So they gave us the money for the album. We recorded the album in January. It didn't get released until July. So we were sitting around for 7 months doing nothing. And it just got kind of frustrated. Everybody got broke. I got broke. Everybody got broke. And because I'm the leader, everybody blamed me. Now, when you guys had money, you know what? Nobody was mad about nothing. But now you don't have any money. Everybody blame me. Just like, you know, I'm the bad guy because you don't have no money. Why am I the bad guy? Because you spent all your money. I bought a house. I bought a car. Everybody bought cars. And it just was a tough time. And then Easy came around with his street money and wanted to do something. And Dre had gotten in trouble getting tickets and, you know, going to jail. And Easy got him out of jail with the understanding you're going to do some beats for me. And that's how Ruthless Records, and that's how Dre kind of drifted from Wreckin Crew over to Ruthless Records.
But was he doing cross work or kind of being ghostwriter?
The original plan was for him to produce Eazy-E and all this. They were Wreckin Crew. You might never say that, but the original
produce his stuff.
Yeah, the original plan was he's going to produce street stuff and still produce us. And the street stuff took off. And, you know, we still doing Turn Off the Lights and soft stuff. And, you know, once they started working for him, they're like, I'm going over here full time. Cool.
I mean, how did Yella jump aboard with NWA? And then
Yella was like, he was cool, but Yella, he followed the money. He just followed the money, that's all. You know, Dre and them say, we're gonna try some over here. And he was able to go over there and do what he did with Easy. And it worked out for him. You know, I can't get mad at him.
Yeah. But you're at the same time, you're also helping promote them too.
I've never hated on them. It just I wasn't into what they were into. I come from a different generation, and being a nigga ain't one of them. And that's something I couldn't do. But you know, far as the music, far as getting them on the radio, taking the Greg Mack, far as getting his contracts done from on Easy. I helped you with that. To my lawyer. I introduced him to Jerry Heller.
So the first performance as NWA was at Skateland, not at Eve after official live performance as a group was at Skateland, not at Eve after Fun.
Well, we'll get there.
Now, how did Cube jump aboard? I know his buddy was Jinx, so that's what the connection was.
Cube and them were doing showcase talent shows for K-Day. And I just got my deal at CBS. And they asked, do I have any more groups? I said, yeah, I got another one. I didn't have shit. I just thought about Cube them. And I brought Cube them over to the house, you know, to introduce them. Dre did a demo for them. And they got signed. So they got signed through Crew Cut on Sony. And it was a short-lived deal. And eventually we all got dropped. But they got the bug now. They got the record bug, and that's when they were Stereo Crew. We all left Sony, came back to Fired Up Crew Cut, went back to Macola. We did the Cabbage Patch 12-inch. Had the house call 12-inch with Cabbage Patch. And, excuse me, with Cabbage Patch and House Calls and Must Be the Music. And Cube did an EP. They did an EP with 3 songs, Ill Cash and some other stuff. Sound like the Beastie Boys. And it didn't do all that great. You know, our record did okay. Cabbage Patch did okay. But, you know, it just, Wacoda, by this time, Wacoda was not the place to be. And the whole thing was just a big old mess. And now everybody mad at me, for real.
So was that the time where they decided let's officially have our own?
Pretty much.
But at the same time, we were also producing other acts.
Yeah.
JJ Fad.
I didn't produce JJ Fad.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't produce. JJ Fad was produced by Arabian Prince.
Arabian Prince. Okay, that's right.
He was produced by Arabian Prince. But because I had created a company called West Coast Record Distributors.
Oh.
Me, Rudy from the Dream Team, Egyptian Lover, and Unknown, I brought us all together to do this distribution company. And Arabian Prince brought JJ Fad to Rudy, which is one of the partners in West Coast Record Distributors, but he also owned the LA Dream Team. So we put the record out through West Coast Record Distributors, and it blew up.
Definitely.
And next thing I know, they're on Ruthless. So now we pissed. Yeah, Rudy sold them to Ruthless. Now we pissed. So it's the record game, man.
Yeah. The record game, it's the business. That's the way you play the game.